Hey guys, good afternoon. This is 17th of May 2020, and this is Logic speaking from No Bad Trades. It's about to be beginning of another week, and just like you guys know, what we do is we go into the market and look at what the market closed with the previous week in congruent with what is done in the past, and we use it to predict our next uh, probable move in the market for the next week. So let's get into it. Today we're gonna be having the AUD USD as which is one of our setup for the week. It's quite a beautiful setup and technical at the same time, but there's a lot to learn from this pair, and yeah, we want to get into it. So I want you guys to pay very close attention to what we're doing. So the first thing, this is the AUD USD on the monthly time frame. And what can you see from the AUD USD? You can see there's a lot that's been going on in recent time, right? Price made a fall and a fall to about this point. This fall as this is the least placed price has fall since 2002, right? And immediately we could see a recovery and price seem to be making a move back to the upside. But so far so good this month. That's been on a bit bearish note. So the first thing we want to do is let's simplify the charts and let's zone the charts out so that we could really get a precise information on what's going on. So the first thing we do is get the upper zone. Right. We after getting the upper zone, we get the upper mid-range zone. Then we get the mid-range zone. We get the lower mid-range zone, right? So and the lower zone. So this is all those zones that we were talking about. So now let's make sense for the flow of the market. What is the flow of the market? Since prices going to this point, since price got to this point, what has price been doing? Price has been making a series of low, right? It made a lower high, right? It made another low. Price made another lower high pattern, and you can see the price is moving on a low. Now price is in between the lower mid-range zone and the lower zone. So what do we think price is going to keep doing, right? This is a zone right here where price rejected in the past. You can see this is a zone where price rejected in the past. It's a very sensitive zone as well. So let's identify this zone out. Right. So what does it mean? What does this mean for us? This means the price could do two things. Now the price is rejected above this point. Price could be making a push to the upside or making a further push to the downside. This is our monthly bias, right? These are monthly bias. So let's go to the weekly time frame and let's see what is happening on the weekly time frame. So bring your price back to the weekly time frame. Remember, we've already established the fact that price is trading on a lower high pattern, right? But apart from that, you can see here that price this last push, which is a push to the downside, also formed into a pattern as well. So what does it mean for us? What it means for us is the price could actually be coming back to this point, but we are not sure about that. So hence, we're going to identify out our weekly mid-range zone. That means price is caught between the lower zone of the a lower zone on the monthly time frame and upper zone on the monthly time frame. Then we have a weekly mid-range zone. Now, what does this mean? If price keep going to the upside, this could be the next resistance where price could be coming and it could give a weak rejection sharply at this point. Then it could reject back to this point or give us a push above this point, get also retest back to this point, and then we could talk of price moving to the next point, which when price start moving to that point, we're going to identify how. But because this is on a weekly time frame, so there's a lot for us to do breaking it down. So this is beginning to make sense now. Let's go to the day time frame and let's break things down further. But before we go down to the daily time frame, let's look at what is really happening. Let's bring out the Fibonacci. out. Let's bring out the Fibonacci out. Remember, price is simple to analyze, right? All you got to do is understand the story with price is moving. So what happened? You can see the reaction at the 61.8. There was a break above the 61.8. So now this last week closed back into the Fibonacci, meaning this Fibonacci zone seems to be holding. Now we don't know if price is going to move up to this point or price is going to get back to where it started the push. So now, but overall, what we can see is that after price made this exhaustion we talked about, you can see the price now started making a push below the price. You can see price making a push below. You can see price making a lower high structures and lower low structures. A lower high structures, a lower low structure. We have another lower high structure, right? A lower low structure. Then we have the last lower high structure. Then before the whole bush or the wildfire in Australian economy, you know, the old trade war before the pandemic started, and you know, boom, we had a crash here. So, sorry, excuse me. So literally, we have an exhaustion back at this point. Remember, after a push, there's always bound to be an exhaustion, right? Could this be the next phase of exhaustion after the push? Well, we don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure. Or could this be the rejection to the push to the upside? Then, could this be a continuation of a push? Then later we have the exhaustion. Then we have the further push at this point. Well, we don't really know about that. So that's why we need to go to the smaller time frame to simplify things out on the smaller time frame. So now let's go to the daily time frame. Okay. So now here on the daily time frame, the push that we've been talking about, remember, this is the exhaustion. Now, you guys should pay very close attention to this point. This was the exhaustion we spoke about on the weekly time frame, and this was the push. We don't know if it's going to get to this point, break this point, back to this zone, and, you know, blah, 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 all those type stuff. So, sorry. So let's continue. Yeah, so like we said, let me repeat myself again. So this was the push to the downside when I talk about the old fundamental that happened on the Australian economy. We talked about the wildfire, you know, the bush burning. We talk about the trade war and everything. These are all the candles. These are all fundamentally catalyzed there or inclined. So we have an exhaustion right at this point. Now the question is, could this be an exhaustion? You remember the 61.8 was broken before, and now it has been respected back. Now, could this be an exhaustion, the end of an exhaustion for a further push to the downside, or could this be the continuation of a push to this point for it for price to break above this point, right? Give us the exhaustion we're waiting for, then for that, you know, push the price to the upside. We don't know, but there's something now I want us to read at this point. Now, what are chances that these are exhaustion? Now, we don't know about that, but now let's identify our daily zones. Now, we have an upper zone right at this point. You guys can see. Now, I want us to pay close attention to something. This price found a demand zone at this point. This looks like a double top pattern, right? And remember, double top pattern is a reversal pattern on charts. Now, what a reversal pattern? The reversal pattern are found at the end of a trend or the beginning of a new one, right? So could this be the beginning of a reversal? That means the end of an exhaustion. I don't know if that makes sense. Double top, let me repeat myself again. Double top patterns are patterns that are formed. Double top pattern is a type of a reversal pattern, right? It falls into the class of the reversal pattern. And what a reversal pattern? Reversal patterns are patterns that we find on the chart that are either present at the beginning of a trend or at the end of a trend. In this case, the question we brought down from the weekly time frame is, could this be the end of the exhaustion, or could this be just a minor exhaustion for a continuation of a push? Well, the daily has given us one of the answer. And what's the answer? We see something that looks like a double top in gain. That means a reversal pattern. That means we have much more outlook, where we have much more outlook in the sell direction, which is the end of the exhaustion and the continuation of the push. Now, let's identify more zones from the daily time frame. We have the zoning game. As you guys can see, this is another zone, right? We're still gonna get to what we're doing. Then this is another zone, right? And as you can see, this is another zone, right? So this is beginning to make sense to us, right? This is beginning to make sense to us. Why? Because we now have four zones on what? The daily time frame. Now, these zones has made the chart more simpler for us. Why? Because now, let us now read the chart flow. Now, after price made this rejection to this point, incline at the fundamental news, now we have a series of higher highs, a higher low, right? A higher high, a higher low, right? This is the push that we saw on the weekly time frame, right? Remember, price moves in different factors. A higher high, a higher low, right? Then we found the last high we found, which saw a demand at this point. So now let's indicate the last high. Let's indicate the last higher low. Now, this is a very beautiful, and interesting pair to watch for this week. Now let's take this off. Oh, okay. Let's take this off and let's indicate the last higher low pattern. Right? So now, literally, apart from the fact that, okay, we could be having a double topping game, which the last higher low has now been established, right, as the neckline, right? Now, apart from the fact that we have that, right, we also have what? The upper zone of the daily time frame, which could be the area where price is gonna end the exhaustion, the weekly time frame exhaustion. Now, what are we looking out for? What we're looking out for, this is the last higher low. Remember, when a pattern is broken, the higher low is broken down, that means it signifies the beginning of a downtrend, right? Now, if we get a break below this point, what does this mean? That means this point right here signifies the end of the exhaustion. And after price cross to this point, that means we could now be having the downward push again, where we're gonna have like a test of surge and we're gonna have a further push, right? We're still gonna get back to that later on. So what are we expecting? We're expecting the prices at a very sensitive zone, right? A daily close above or below this point will tell us the information we need to know. What does it mean? We don't know if price is going to come back to this point. If price get back to this point, that means the exhaustion has ended and the push to the downside has started. Now, if price should make a push back to this point, that means, interesting, price could continue, since this is a higher low and it's not broken the higher low. That means price could get back to this point and continue, right? The further push to the upside, right? Which is still a very nice push for, which is still a very nice push for us. We're gonna find an entry and we're gonna ride it to the point. Or price could actually get back and give us a triple top pattern, which is a very stronger exhaustion candle, and we can now have a further fall to the downside. Okay, we could also have a triple top pattern, right? So we don't really know what price is doing, but there's something we need to understand. Before price may order triple top pattern or the continuation, price will do two things. Number one, either price make a push to this point, or either price make a push to this point. And now, looking at the analysis from the bigger time frame. That's the essence of trading from the bigger time frame. Now, looking at the analysis from the bigger time frame, what do we know? We understand that price should reject back to the upside. Okay, we could be having a further bias and the continuation of the push to the upside, right? Then it's going to come back to the weekly time zone, which is this point, break it, give us a retest above it, right? Just like this, give us a retest above it, just like this. Give us a retest above it, just like this, and keep pushing to the next monthly zone, right? But then we don't know. We want to capitalize either on this push, which is about 151 pips if it goes to the upside, and another 146 pips if it goes to the downside. So what's the next thing we're going to do? Now let's identify potential or trend lines right here. Now we have a trend line right here, a very interesting trend line on the daily time frame, right? This is a very beautiful trend line on the daily time frame, right? So there was a breaker retest. That means that the price could actually make a push to this point. We could see a reaction at this point, but if it breaks this point, the chart structure has confirmed that it's definitely going to get back to this point, but we could see a little reaction at this point, right? This is beginning to make a lot of sense to us. So now let's go to the 4 hours time frame. Now, remember, the last higher low now is now our new 4 hours time frame mid-range zone, right? Is it beginning to make sense to you guys now? So what do we expect from price, right? What we expect from price is 2 things. Getting to this point, let me bring out the horizontal line. Good. So getting to this point, what do we expect, right? We expect price to either make a push to the upside, or price can either make a push to the downside. Now, let's identify, I think there's a little trend line on the 4 hours time frame. Yeah, which is this one. Okay, beautiful. So now this is the 4 hours trend line, right? So if we have price shift to this point, that means price could either be coming back to retest this trend line, right? We don't really know what price is going to do. So now let's not capitalize on that, but let's look at what exactly we're looking forward to. So now, apart from that, you can see price has really been choppy on a lower high pattern, right? Since price got to this point. Now, let's bring out our trend line right at this point, and let's see what the sequence the price has been following, right? Remember now we know the sentiment on a long time, either to the upward push or to the downward push, right? So now what we're now doing now is we're narrowing our observation now to potential point of entry. Okay, so now let's take a very good look at this. So what does this mean? Let's zoom it out. Let's zoom it out. Let's zoom it out and see what price is doing. So what does it mean? Are we just gonna say, oh, if price hit this point directly, we're gonna go long, or if price breaks this point, we're gonna go short? No, we're not gonna do that. So what we're gonna do is let us make sense with the structure price has been doing. Meanwhile, I want us to spot a very beautiful zone right at this point. This is a very beautiful mini zone on the 4 hours time frame as well, right? That means the previous area of support, right at this point. Now, let me even make sense with it. This is what I was talking about. When price went to meet the last demand, it gave us a pattern, right? And when it gave us the pattern, it came back to bounce off the resistance, turn it to support. Then it formed like a resistance right at this point. Then it broke it right at this point, and it came back to retest price, right? And hence price is approaching this point, right? So this is beginning to make sense, right? So I want us to take note of that. This is gonna give us a lot of information, right? Very nice information. So now we can see, let's zoom it in. We can see the price made a first touch. Let's put it on the pinpoint pattern, on the pinpoint of it, right? Yeah, so you can see price made the first touch, the second touch, the third touch, no fourth touch. Rather, the previous area of support turned on resistance right at this point. So what does this mean? So what it means is price is going to make a push to this point first. That's for sure, right? Because this support zone, this previous area of resistance, turn support, now turn resistance, is going to act on price. So what do we expect? We expect two things, right? We expect two things from market now. This is beginning to make sense to us now. We expect two things. Price either touch this point, make a push back to this point, right? Oh, sorry, make a push back to this point to hit it the fourth time, then that's below the resistance, right? Then it could actually give us a hit down to this point, right? Or price could also make a push. Okay, let me take up a new trend line. So price could also make a push above this point, give us a retest back above this very strong zone. And what is price going to do? Make a push back to where? The demand zone. So this is what we're expecting from price. So now, how do we find our entry? It's very simple. How are we gonna find our entry? If price hit this place the fourth time, are we just gonna enter the market? No. Remember, this is the last lower high. So a break of the lower high, which is happening on the daily time frame right here, and leads to the, the final confirmation that price has now started the push to the downside we're talking about. So we have two game zones. So what we expect is simple. We're going to be waiting for 4 hours break below this point. Then we're going to be waiting for like a retest, right? Just like this, a retest. Then we're going to look forward for the exhaustion back to this point. So this is the two things we're looking forward in game for the market. So what is really going to give us the confirmation we're waiting for in this trade? Now, if price gets to this point, we expect to see price react either back to this point on now, finally break this point, or break this point to the upside. Now, what do I mean? We expect to see a price push to the downside, then finally to contract to the upside. Remember, this is a double top game in game. And apart from that, this is a demand zone, and we don't know if it's like an exhaustion. So what do we expect from the market? So after price made a push to the upside, we don't know if the force is going to break. If it breaks to the upside, then we're going to go long. After price make a break and a retest back to this point, right? Then our stop loss is going to be below this point. Then we're going to be having about 142 pips by risking about 38 pips, which is about 1:, I think, or 1:4, I guess so. 1:4, 1:5, almost 1:5. I mean, so if we're going to enter on a sell, we're going to wait for price to get to this point. Then price should make the last exhaustion, right? After price made the last exhaustion, it breaks this point. After it breaks and it retests down below this point, we're going to go short on the 127 pips and risking as much as about 40 pips as well, which is 1:3 to the downside. If it goes to the upside, right? If it breaks the upside, give us a retest, we're going to go 1:4. So this is our expectation of the AU to USD. Now bring it to the 1 hour time frame. This is what our setup is going to look like. This is what our setup is going to look like. So a break, this is what our setup is going to look like. So we could see, we could be having like a push to the downside first, then we could now be having like a squeeze to the upside. So we don't know if the squeeze to the upside is going to lead to that, to the break, or the further push to the downside is going to lead to the break, the break, the retest, then the continuation, which is our 1:3 risk reward. So this is exactly what our setup is going to look like. Remember, what we're simply doing is we're trading the bigger time frame, the bigger bias we have from the bigger time frame, or starting from the monthly time frame. We broke it down to the 4 hours. So this is what we expect from this week. This is one of our trade we're looking out to go in this week, right? And this is how to trade. Now that we're done, let me give you guys a little psychology. When you trade in the Forex market, I don't want you to just open your chart and see red and green ticks. Now, don't just see the red and green candlesticks or whatever you call it, right? I want you to see it as a storybook Can you see I have been able to break down the market in like a form of story? I could break it down to where the wildfire happened, where the trade war happened, and I'm being able to relate the fundamental aspect of the trade with the technical aspect, and at the same time I'm being able to create a sentiment out of it. So when you analyze the market, you just don't get to look at it in a technical manner. No, don't just look at it like a bunch of a bunch of red and green candles on a white slate. No, I want you to look at it and relate to it. Tell a story. Every trade has a story, right? Is your duty as a trader to find the story, interpret the story, find the perfect area of confirmation. Even when you see a setup, you just don't go into the market. I noticed that a lot of you guys, when we post our outlook, you just get into the market, maybe because it seems similar to what you're doing. And at the end of the day, you lose money and we make money. The difference is because you are getting the wrong entry. You could find a perfect setup, but if your entry is wrong, bet me 100% you're going to lose the trade. So this is what we're looking for. You can see the confirmation. For us to go long, we need to see that squeeze, that little squeeze in between this point. So that squeeze could lead to the price going to the upside, and we wait for the break of this sensitive zone, which is previously resistance from support, now turn resistant. Now if we turn it to support, we're going to go long on the trade. We're going to go long on the trade. After this resistance, we're going to go long on the trade. Now if we see this squeeze take price to the downside, right, what are we going to do? We wait for a break, wait for a retest, and we're going to go short on this. And this is how to trade like a profit trader. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for the time. I want you to go over this video again. Use these principles, right, to do what? To analyze your chart. If you can analyze your chart in this way, trust me 100%, you are going to have minimal lose, because if the trade doesn't hit your confirmation, you're not going to enter the trade. And if you analyze the market in this kind of manner, you're not really going to be trading too much or be losing your account. Why? Because you're not going to be chasing the trade. You wait for the chase, the trade to come to you. And if you find it very hard and difficult to get into the Forex market, you can contact us at Nobody's Trade. You can see our handle and get on with the team. Everything we do is price action driven. There's no sort of indicator. All we do is read the chart, create the story to it, digest the story, and digest the chart into smaller time frames where we could get into the market. Thank you guys so much for your time. My name is Logic from No Back Trade, and have a beautiful week ahead. Thank you.